Thank you for watching this video today about data archiving and data cleansing in Navigator. Firstly, why bother? Data archiving, data cleansing inherently costs money, uses some budget. We have to pay to cleanse through third-party services, but the benefit is there. We can keep our database nice and trim, so we're only marketing to people that only need to be marketed to. But then there's a real cost saving as well. You know, every time we send a letter to somebody who we don't need to, it's going to cost us £1. Even a text message is going to cost us 4 or 5p every time we send a text message to a customer who hasn't got that vehicle anymore. Or if we make a telephone call to make a customer, a typical telephone call can take 5 minutes by the time you've chased them or got through to them. And that's going to cost you £1 or 2 every time you make a telephone call. So the value of data cleansing, keeping that trim, does make sense. So let's talk about how we do that in Navigator. It's all managed in the marketing data management screen. So if we come into marketing data management screen, the first thing you will always want to do when you're managing your database is setting up your data archiving. So what this will do is automatically initially mark records as no follow-up, so we don't start marketing to them, we're wasting our time, and then later on delete them once we've got no contact with the dealership after a certain number of months. So that will has two settings. There's one for customers and one for vehicles. You can have a customer with multiple vehicles. One of the vehicles we may not have seen in the dealership for 3 years, you would probably want to delete that record. And one vehicle maybe is coming in currently, and that will be there currently. And the same for customers. So what we would do is just click the setup here on data archiving, and it will see there's 4 boxes on customer. So number of months, no contact to mark as no follow-up. So if we've had no contact from the customer within 12 months, so that's any communication at all, it'll mark it as no follow-up. And then on my system here, we will delete that if we've had no contact at all from the customer in 24 months. So a contact might be an invoice, it might be a sales inquiry, it might be anything. Then we've got no invoices. So if the customer's not bought anything from us within, in my case, 12 months, it'll get marked as no follow-up. That's probably a bit light on mine. It should be maybe 36 or even 48 months. And then later on in my system at 24 months, we will delete the customer if he's not bought anything from 24 months. And these all work together, whichever one, they've got basically got to fail both of those before and something happens. Then looking at a vehicle, the number of months of no service contact to mark as follow-up. So that is a service booking, service invoice normally. Is what it's counting there. So basically mine's quite aggressive here. You'd probably want to set that for 36 or 48 months. The number of times, the amount of time since he last bought something from us, do you want to stop sending him service reminders and MOT reminders? And then later on, if he still doesn't buy from us, how many months between before we actually delete that vehicle from the record? So that might be set at 50, 60 months. Quite often that might depend on the warranty on the vehicle as well. Once you set that, this will run automatically every month, and as customers and vehicles start to age, that will automatically start to mark them as archiving. That's a completely free service done within the software, nice and easy, should be set up. Once we've done that, we're now moving into the realms of data cleansing. And we have 4 different options for data cleansing. This is wander through those. We've got what we call cleanses, customer, vehicle, MOT. They are one-off, run when you hit the button, cleanses. So the customer cleanse will cleanse records that are deceased, where they've moved house, where they've got a forwarding address, for example. The vehicle cleanse will remove scrapped vehicles. It'll mark vehicles that have had a keeper change since you've last saw them, so the customer may not own the vehicle anymore. And the MOT cleanse will go through the whole vehicle database and update the next MOT date, so it keeps the records clean. They're generally items that you would run once, typically, with one exception, which we'll come back to. The one at the bottom here is vehicle watch. What the vehicle watch will do is it will then register all your vehicles on the database with a third-party service, and that will monitor those. So what will happen is once a month, any vehicle in your database that has been marked as scrapped, keeper changed, or had an MOT done outside of the business, the keeper watch system will ping to the system exactly any change, so it's kept up to date from that point onwards. So what will happen is that, say for example, you'll see in the report here, which is refreshing all the time, any ones that have been processed. So what it will show here is when it was run and it was submitted, date and time, the price. Let's come back to the price. Every one of these checks has a price attached to it. Has it been approved? Actually is running. These are the number of records that got submitted for cleansing, and these are the ones that got updated by the cleanse. Generally, the charging is different. I'll talk about that in a second. And then there are statuses. So basically what will happen is there will be a status called auditing. So that's when you're actually starting it. It'll then go away and count how many are submitted and do an audit on what the price is going to be. So you'd always get a quote of how much it's going to cost approximately. It's not perfect. I'll explain why in a second. And then what you'll have is audited awaiting confirmation. So that's when it's complete. We can see the price. We can then process that if we want to, and then once it's processed, we'll have a processed item in there. Vehicle data watches will have a scheduled task that will run every month, so it will tell you that it's scheduled in there, and it will give you the approximate monthly price. That will change. So let's talk about pricing now. Customer data cleanse, doesn't matter how many records we actually submit for cleansing, that is going to be basically how many records it gets cleansed. The price is different, but typically somewhere around about 10-12p per record that gets cleansed. It depends on what the cleanse is, whether it's been deceased or whether it's an address change or whether it's supplied a new address in there. But it'll give you a price when you do that. The vehicle cleanse is more straightforward. It's basically 10p for every record that needs cleansing. Simple. MOT cleanse, it's 1.2 pence currently for every vehicle that an MOT cleanse is run for. Those prices change from time to time, and they're listed on the Navigator website on the portal there. The vehicle data watch is obviously a recurring figure. It's every month. Basically, it's basically a price per 1,000 records that it's keeping on watch. So if you've got, I don't know, 10,000 records on there, that'll be 10 times, in this case at the moment, £10 a month to cleanse that, to keep that clean all the time. They all work the same way. So once we do it, let's say for example we do a vehicle cleanse, what will happen is you'll see it's here, it's created, and then I'll refresh it straight away. But you'll see it refreshes every 30 seconds, this screen. Generally, my database is quite small. This could take an hour or so to do, so it's one of those ones where you come back to it later. And you'll see now that this is awaiting confirmation. It's a vehicle data cleanse. We submitted 10 records. 2 of them need updating. It's going to be 20p. That's the 2 times 10 pence. We can then click that. Also awaiting confirmation. We can approve that. It asks us to approve the 20 pence, and we can then process that. That will then get done. Job done. And it will show it's now been processed. That has now been done, and you'll get billed at the end of the month for that. So all of those work in the same way. I won't demonstrate the others, but generally what you would do is after data archiving, you let the data archive run. I would then do a data cleanse. You want to remove the people that are dead, and obviously all their vehicles goes with it. So that means the vehicle cleanse cleanses less records, and then run that. And then I would run the MOT cleanse afterwards to make sure you start with a clean database. And once all 3 of those are run, you can then set up the vehicle data watch. That'll keep vehicles nice and clean and tidy afterwards. What you can do is you can return into this screen once a month, once every 3 months, rerun the customer cleanse. Now what that will do is it won't cleanse the whole database again. It'll only cleanse data that it hasn't already marked as deceased or vehicle address changed or something like that. So what will happen is you'll just be dealing with the changes since you last cleansed it, or any new records that have been put in there. So what you'll find is that whilst the initial price might be relatively high, the monthly cost would be relatively low because you're only going to do changes that have happened in that month. Pretty straightforward. There are some reports. So there's a log. Basically on the cleansing log you can actually then pick a date from date 2. Are you looking at customers or vehicles and report on, and it will show you all the records that have been cleansed. Mine hasn't got any in there yet, but it will show you all the records that have been cleansed in there. You can click on them and check them if there's any strange ones in there. And what else we got in here? The customer updates one. You can go between two dates, say the 1st January today and the 30th of June, say for example. It's actually in the future, it doesn't matter. And report. That will report on any customer contact or any customer update between those two dates. So you can kind of see what record has been changed. These are all by customer number, and you'll see multiple updates here. You can see what's happened. The record's been deleted, or it's been updated, or it's been a service appointment. And you can kind of look through here and see, and you'll see parts invoices and service invoices in there. It's quite useful because you can check, for example, ones that don't have email addresses. You're thinking, why have we updated a record and not put an email address in? And we can click in the record and see why. It also shows us who's done it. It shows you the GDPR flags, so we can see that everybody's been approved or not approved. And we can see who, so we know who to talk to in there. Again, we can export that to Excel. Hopefully that's a good way of looking at these screens. Thanks for watching.